In the past 5 minutes, Carlo, I've been practicing your surname, how to pronounce it, Van Wageningen.
Wageningen, but Carlo is perfect.
Carlo, okay. Carlo, whom everybody knows as the chairman of Lake Turkana Power, and so we've already mentioned his successful project, but I hope you can talk about a couple of other things, and particularly lessons. So, over to you.
Thank you very much. And yes, I am, to start with, just to give me a very short presentation of myself. I'm an investor, I'm an entrepreneur since 1993 in Kenya. That's when I went and started private sector. But I spent a long time with the United Nations before that, and I was developing projects for them, actually, for FAO in the agriculture sector. And so that I had started in 1976. So yes, I am that age. And what I've learned in Africa in doing projects, and I've done projects all over Africa, from north to south to west to east. And then I stopped and chose Kenya as my home, where I've been for the last 30 years. Although traveling a lot in the region. On my own back, and I have a lot of scars. I mean, when you say you want to be an entrepreneur in an African country, you have to be ready to get beaten up, but seriously. And I went through that. I went through my learning curves and through my pains and things. But like I have always developed one skill that I've always done is whenever a project was successful and went through and came to closing, I always went back and I did a post-mortem. And the post-mortem is dissecting your project again and saying, where can I do this better? Where can I save time? Where can I save money for the next time I do it? And I don't trip over the same mistakes that cost you time and money when you hit them in your project development. And by virtue of being an entrepreneur, I'm a risk taker. I'm different from a Tata, or maybe, and certainly a bank or a financier or whatever. So I need support. So when you develop a project, I love greenfield, and Africa is about greenfield. And so I'm in my habitat for that. And I like challenges. But as an entrepreneur, I tend to take very high risk and too high risk for a high return. And therefore, I have to have around me the right set of expertise. So first thing I would say, make sure you have that expertise. And that expertise includes, very importantly, for a foreign investor who enters an African country for the first time, boots on the ground. This, I fully agree with what Vishal told us before. You need to have a party on the ground who can take you by the hand and move you across and through the meanders of the bureaucracy, the local bureaucracy, and understands it. Now, that also means a strong due diligence. You don't want to fall in the wrong hands. And that is very easy to do as well. Because you have wheeler dealers, you have people out there who promise you fast tracking of things, and then you get into a lot of trouble because you don't get the bankability, because when the due diligence is done on you, it fails, because you haven't done things according to law, procedure, process, and the red tape that is required. If you can fast track the red tape because you have good lobbyists, that's okay, but don't cut corners. That's a very important element. Projects have failed after financial close because that due diligence had not been done properly, and then they were faced with a problem. We have one particular project in Kenya that had been developed for 9 years. They started at the same time we had started to develop Lake Turkana wind power, and they failed after financial close. At that time, all the equity had been sunk, and part of the financing went with it as well. And today they are in arbitration with government, whatever, trying to recover whatever they can recover. But that is greatly due to a failed, somewhere along the line, of a good due diligence done on some aspects of the licensing, of the land acquisition, whatever it was that was not done entirely by the book. So that is a strong element. I always invite new ideas because I'm interested as an investor and not only as a developer. So if there is an idea, I normally tell people, don't hide risk. You have to understand the risk. You have to let the risk be transparent and tell your financiers and your investors where that risk is, why that risk exists, and how you intend to mitigate it. Because at the end of the day, a lender or an investor in your project is buying risk. That's what he's doing, because the return and the revenue he's going to make out of your project is commensurate with the risk that he is taking. So he needs to understand that risk. Sorry. And that's it, really. If I could go on for a whole day.
Right, and we'd love to hear you, to stay for the whole day and hear you. But thanks for that, Carlo. That's really great.
Doing business in Africa. You can't afford to be without Africa Investor.